Anyway, I was just waking up this morning and over here in a pile of dirt. Anyway, these police departments, see, I've always defended people. I do not like bullies. I fought my whole life. You know, I was put into behavior class. So I had to fight because of my dyslexia. But, you know, this police brutality, they ain't nothing more than, I grew up in Rose Park, for the most part, around a lot of gangs. But these guys are nothing more than a gang. What they are is public servants. They're meant to assist and do no harm. And I wouldn't be caught dead driving around with a badge on my shirt. There's just no way. Being a part of the boys in blue and their locker room mentality. They're public servants. They're not authority. And in fact, to consider themselves authority is a violation of color of law, and that's punishable minimum of life imprisonment and a death sentence. Especially the mob mentality, patternistic mob mentality. It's also the RICO Act. They're passing their civic duty and their civil rights to their job, and that's trespass. And then they're going out and they're forcing trespass of individuals, and the corporation shall not control the individual. No business of monopoly shall exist, nor shall they build structure within inside of the infrastructure against the structure of independence. So they have movement. They've been through the 911 emergency communication. They started getting movement between cities and started gaining power. And they're nothing but little panty-waist bitches is all they are. I mean, they're literally breaking into everything and building these cities and creating social pressure and misguiding the ship into a hostile territory. They're getting you to believe that that's their job. They're doing their job. Actually, it's your job to stand for one another. They've been still in America for a long time, since World War II. The corporations always wanted to have control, and that's one of the main causes for coronavirus, is to get you to conform and to comply to the customer service, take your customer service away, your hospitality, and all the condiments, stuff like that, because they're taking over and owning these businesses. I've caught them meeting in Bend, Oregon. They're not to have communication between each business because they are private businesses. They're not actual police officers. They're code enforcements. They're not state. They're city, and a city is of a town. They're for the townspeople, and they're supposed to maintain care and courtesy and maintain customer service. But what they do is they subdivide and they fragmentate. They're being protected by they go in and they get a job with the sheriff's department, and they use the sheriff's department to protect their position, which is against right to representation. Not one law, not one of their codes, no town, no city is allowed special code and ordinance, nor are they allowed to blacklist, nor are they allowed to blackball or have special code and ordinance. or the zoning violations. Those are not criminal activities. And not one of them will ever stand up in court, because what they're doing is they're taking and committing a first-degree felony to press each one that they come after you for. So like domestic assault, they're causing domestic assault. They're causing stress on the families. They're against the United States of America. They're a foreign domestic policy of a foreign government of military uniform in action. They're not allowed, by Geneva Convention, they're not allowed to use women and children as an action of war, and they're not allowed to pursue and view the people as a source of revenue. Their main position is to make sure that right-of-way, they're confusing it with left, and then they're using those federal laws that they can't do that bind them from doing it, because no law is enforceable unless life, land, or liberty has been drugged deliberately. So it's like I've told you, gay rights, transparent, is all about your pursuit to happiness. So when they come tell you you're blocking right away of a sidewalk, that's a federally protected sidewalk. They don't have right to do that. Like in America Fork, they've got signs telling other people that they don't give to the people panhandling, which is against 14th Amendment and the Second Amendment. They're forcing you into organization because they want their hands in it. But any time right now, if you go on the street, if you go through a separation, you won't even make it to court. They'll subdivide you from your family, and then they'll chase you. Now, every town I go to, I am chased and told that I can't be there. There's no camping, but they're campaigning. They're camping. It's called a prison mining camp. They're forcing you guys to mine, okay, and stand against your civic duty. You have the right to citizen's arrest. Okay, it is your civic duty to defend your life, land, and liberty at all means. And to use them and call 911, or to call these different police departments and to pass your trust to them, is a violation of your American rights. It's a surrendering and then going into the U.S., which is an incorporation of supposed to be for enlisted military personnel only, and they do not use the trust, and that's the federal note. So where they're not, the banks are in trespass as well. They're not supposed to be receiving aid, being that they are a military force in action and patternistic behavior and uniform code and ordinance. And it says right on the ticket, uniform information. All right. And what that means is they're armed uniform military personnel and an action of war against you. And due to killing people, they were denied. Okay, when the president talks, they're not talking about city police, but they are protecting the wall. Okay, Walmart, they're enforcing, and they're employed of a Walmart, and they cannot force identification either. Okay, that's to force identify with who they are and what they're doing, or to take your identification. That is theft of identity. So these businesses that are asking you for identification for cigarettes and other means is in a civil matter. A child can walk in and buy cigarettes and bring it to their parents. This is a violation and border jumping immigration into civil law. It is gang stalking, it is police brutality, and they're out there waiting to pull you over. Now, on your driver's license, they're trying to instate that you're a U.S. or American citizen. You're a person of the United States of America. You're an independent individual. You cannot be governed, shall not be governed. This insubordination to a mutiny, a hostile takeover of the United States of America, and over your independence, and over your family, and using the DARE program, and using the education board to force you in, and to use all these different things There's security guards at every freaking state and federal building. You can't even talk to them. They're protecting their business. They're protecting their job. They're supposed to be protecting who you are and to do no harm. Every single one of them are criminals. It's fucking disgusting. They are flat out federal criminals. And they are owned privately, so you know. Those are private military mercenaries in an action war against you. And literally all the way across the United States, I went and traveled everywhere, and I fought for our independence and freedom against every single one of them. And they're not even allowed to operate a vehicle because they are an incorporation. They're not in physical control of themselves, but they are held independently because they're following orders. They're not employed of their own moral code and compass. They have committed sins against themselves by employing these codes against people and doing harm. It is domestic violence against themselves, and they're also blasting their inner light and their inner innocence and doing harm. And they're defacing the country and changing the agricultural and recreation and demanding compliance. It is alteration of genetics and is not standing ground in which we stand. It's shining false light. It's defacing the country, the monetary system, and is a full-out action of war and very easy to get over. You guys got to quit surrendering and stand up for your rights. Stand up for yourself. Because it is the rights to bear arms, and that is the truth. You have the right to, you're required to defend your life, land, and liberty. Not be drugged by your heritage and by what you do and be called a drug and let them commit actions of war against your neighbors.